Hello, I'm Adoma Koman. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I am just so jittering with joy right now. I've landed into Cairo, in Africa, the motherland. I don't even know how to contain my emotions right now, so I'm just going through this journey, picking up my luggage, going to my driver, and yeah, that's this journey right now. So, we're gonna talk about Egypt. Egypt literally has grappled me by the heart. Egypt meant so much to me because it meant so much to my mother. Egypt was literally like, I've traveled a lot of places, and each of the places that I've been to have meant so many different things to me over the years. And you know, my mom would like buy me like these little art books that focus on like, you know, the arts of Egypt, and we would talk about Tutankhamun and Orion's constellation, astrology, and why like Egypt was so important. It was interesting because I went to both of the places that meant a lot to both of my parents, Egypt and Ghana. The day that I arrived was like the most magical day. Egypt was playing Cameroon that night, and they beat Cameroon in soccer and football. And I just remember like the whole city was going bananas. And I just remember being like, oh my God, like, you know, this is so cool. Just thinking about it just brings me back, you know? It was the most magical 2 weeks of my life being there. I felt like the people there were so nice. Toast to our shoots. Yeah. I had me some asab.
Asab.
Asab?
Yeah.
Asab.
Mish asab.
Asab.
Asab. Asab.
Asab.
No. Asab.
Asab.
Yeah.
I had asab and it was good.
Yeah.
I had asab and it was good. And this is gonna sound really interesting and weird, but I felt closer to God there because the people there were just so overwhelmingly nice. And I was not used to that. Like, I'm used to people being nice, but it just felt like they were being nice from the belly. Like, I don't even know how to explain it. You just have to go to Egypt to experience it. Because I stayed in downtown Cairo, which was near like Tahrir, like the Tahrir Square and like Garden City and things like that, like right across from like Zamalek. And I just remember like first seeing the pyramids and what that felt like. And I just remember being like, oh my God, like I finally made it to Africa. I remember like just being so enamored by the pyramids. And as we're driving and seeing the pyramids, and I'm in my Uber, and a guy hops into the car. I just thought it was really interesting. Then that's when the haggling began, like everywhere. But for me, I'm from the hood. Like, I'm from, you know, uptown, like Spanish Harlem, Bronx all day. And you're not gonna pull that on me. Like, you better back up. You better back up. Like, it's not happening here. While I was over there, people did think that I looked like I was from, you know, Aswan, which Aswan is where like the darker skinned people are from. And you know, I met some guys from Aswan and he was like, we're brothers. Like, he sold me some bags that I bought for my sisters and my mom, and he was like, we're brothers. And so it was a lot of that. And I love Egypt. A lot of people just kept telling me that I was traveling at such a different discretion than the normal tourist. And for me, when I do travel, I'm not gonna be traveling just to see like, you know, landmarks and things like that, because that's not my style, you know? I'm very interested in the culture. I'm very interested in the people and how they're creating art. And when I went to Egypt, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be around a lot of different artists. And it was magical. I loved it. Another thing that I noticed while I was there was how affectionate the men are over there. Which was something also that I was not used to. Like growing up as a Black American, like, you know, like we're really tough and hard on our men, and you know, we're supposed to be like this, you know? We're not supposed to be soft. Being soft is looked upon as being weak. And it was just very interesting to be in that type of environment. Like, I just wasn't used to a lot of things. It was such a big culture shock for sure. I did a photo shoot with this amazing guy. His name is Ali Osama. He's an amazing photographer. I just remember just browsing Instagram, and I'm just like, you know, if I'm going to go to a whole different continent, if I'm gonna go to a whole different country, like I wanna really see what the art is like. I'm always like, you know, it'd be really cool to do a shoot with you. Let's see what we can do. And so I wanted to see if I could work with some Egyptian, you know, designers. And so I didn't get the chance to meet him because he was being fabulous in Italy, but I got to meet Kojak, and that was just so, I got to like meet his team. Being able to like wear some of his designs for this shoot was like super cool. So I was just kind of like, oh my God, like this is just so wild that I'm living this life, you know? And on the way of our shoot with me and Ali Osama, we met these guys on the street as they noticed that we were taking these shoots, these pictures, and they were like, come on, do you want to use our motorcycle? Get on the motorcycle. And so I got on their motorcycle and took some photos, and it was really cool. And then we had a moment, and we didn't speak the same language, but we spoke the same vibe. We're taking advantage of this thing called life and just really basking in it. And you know, it's so interesting because the guy had the same name as me, you know, because my name is Ajomako Amun, and the guy, his name was Amun, and so we were going back and forth, and it was just so amazing having that opportunity to like meet some people out there and do that shoot. One thing I would love to talk about is the fact that people always talk about like it being illegal to be gay in Egypt. And I think it's such an interesting conversation because through my experience, I wouldn't say I was visibly queer there for sure. It just so happened that, you know, when I was talking to the photographer and I was like saying, like, we were discussing like what kind of look we were gonna go for. Like the look was have a mustache. And so I had a mustache for the first part of my time there. And the second part, I just immediately shaved it off and I still was fine. But I think it's so interesting because like I met this amazing guy on Grindr, and the whole situation with Grindr over there is just so interesting. So first I have to say that people have told me this, that Grindr is kind of considered like a dicey thing to do over there, because there are cops who are on Grindr. They're lurking and checking to see what people are doing, and you know, because it's illegal to be gay in Egypt. It's kind of like when there's a high alert type of situation, that's the time when you would see cops on there. But I didn't have an experience with seeing cops. I did have an experience with receiving a lot of disappearing photos. I also thought it was really interesting that there were a lot of tops. Like, I feel like every time I turned my head, there was always a top in Egypt. And I'm just kind of like, can I escape you guys? Like, why is everyone a top in Egypt? And I thought that was really interesting. It was just like, it was so interesting, like, being in Egypt for the first time and like hanging out in Cairo. You know, I've made so many friends. You know, another thing that I learned when I was hanging out with the photographer, Ali, was that, because I love taking pictures and I love freezing time and remembering the moments. Like, those are my memories for life. And I remember like holding my camera out, my phone, my iPhone, and he was just kind of like, don't take pictures of the cops. Like, that will cause like a huge discrepancy, and like taking pictures of cops in Egypt is like kind of like a wild thing. Like, you can't do it because it's kind of like, it's kind of illegal. Like, if you do it, you'll get into some real trouble. So like, if you can, avoid taking pictures of cops while you're there. And then, you know, because this was a discussion we had when we were entering the train station. And I remember entering the train station and then learning that there's like a section for men and a section for women. I learned that, you know, let's just say that sometimes men don't know how to keep their hands to themselves. And because of the result of that, they have sectioned off for women to have their own they have 2 train cars dedicated to women in Egypt. And I was very culture shocked by that. Women have the option to take the train with men if they want to. Men cannot be in the same train car as the women train car. And I also had kepta. It's like cow's liver, and they sell it on the street, and it's kind of like made as if it's like a burrito. And it was really, really good. I really enjoyed it. I also made friends with this guy named Sharif, who I find extraordinarily phenomenal. He's a phenomenal photographer, phenomenal videographer. Like, he's tapped into the culture. He's like this beautiful man who is like very tough and hard and is very proud of his country. And I loved it. I loved hanging out with him for that time. He taught me how to skateboard, and I thought that was really cool. I was just like, oh my God, we're like skateboarding. Like, I'm skateboarding in Egypt, and I never skateboarded in my entire life. Now I can say that I went all the way to Cairo, Egypt to learn how to skateboard. I remember meeting one of my friends, Imam, and I remember meeting him, and he's so phenomenal. He's a phenomenal photographer as well. And on my way to meeting him, this driver was just driving so wild. And in Egypt, they just drive incredibly wild. Like, the way how people communicate is through honking their horns. And I'm just kind of like, this is just, like, I've been to Dominican Republic before, and I thought the people in Dominican Republic drove crazy. In Egypt, it's like full scale, like next level. And it felt like I was in a video game. And I was on my way to meet him, and I was a little bit nervous, because he changed his look. So when I saw him, I was like a little bit shocked. I was like, oh my God, what is this like light-skinned Egyptian man doing? Like, he looks so different. And I was kind of afraid, because we were supposed to like go to like eat or whatever, and then he was like, oh, my friends are hanging out, do you want to come? And like, I was a little bit nervous. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to like a new person's house that I don't know. Like, what could happen? And then joy happened. We had the most amazing time. Like, we were all hanging out and like just talking, like in like one of his other friends' rooms, who was also really cool. Like, even thinking about it, just like makes my heart shake and pump, because it's just kind of like we just hung out and talked and we exchanged culture. One thing that I learned when I was out there is the fact that when you're in Egypt, they practice a lot of traditional rules. And so one rule is that, like, if you're gonna be sharing a hotel room with the opposite sex, you have to have a marriage certificate or have 2 beds. But I believe most of the time, if you don't have this marriage certificate, you have to have like a different room. But after that, I like found another hotel. I went to the Velvet Hotel, and it was so incredible being at the Velvet Hotel because I paid $150 to stay there for the whole week. And they kind of said the same thing. They were like, you're allowed to have men over, but you're not allowed to have women over. I just thought it was really interesting how things were running in terms of having hotel guests, because I'm allowed to have a man over and not a woman. And so I think there's a lot of room for a lot of other things to happen because of that. One thing that I didn't do, which I'm excited to do the next time I go to Egypt, is party. Like, I didn't party at all last time, and I'm ready to like throw down and like have a good time. I just had a really good time hanging out with my friends when I was there, the new friends that I made, and I'm just excited to see them and give them hugs and have a really good time and turn up. Isn't that crazy? Like, some people don't even think to turn up in Egypt, but there is room for turn up.